Please don't forget the money, man.
All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny, daily counting every single one. I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch.
Welcome to the Michael Welch Podcast. Today, we celebrate the Kansas Jayhawks knocking off the North Carolina Tar Heels 72-69. Bill Self racks up only his second national title in 17 seasons with Kansas with a massive come-behind victory, down 16 points at one point, the biggest comeback in NCAA history. Kansas came out hot immediately with an Abaji 3 to start the game, and they jumped out to an 11-5 lead early, and it was tough defense by Kansas on the Tar Heels. Badcock actually had a very tough start. He was blocked immediately and then back down in the paint pretty quickly and had a hard time on his next offensive possession, forced to take a jumper from the free throw line. Now, he settled down after the first couple of minutes and showed that he could kind of anchor on the defensive end. He was able to force McCormick out of the point early and disrupt some drivers and do a good job on that end once he got out of the immediate funk there. McCormick picked up his first foul at the 14-minute mark, and he picked up another one a few minutes later on a cheap foul on Caleb Love, which got him seated on the bench and really caused problems for Kansas. But just prior to that, Kansas started missing some shots after they jumped out to the quick 11-5 lead and allowed the Tar Heels to kind of creep back into it. Badcock actually started 2 for 6 from the field, but grabbed 4 offensive rebounds quick to kind of make a statement there. He did quickly put the Tar Heels in the lead 12-11. But once we hit the under 12-minute timeout at the 10:45 mark, Kansas was back up 15-12. And the shooting marks at that point was 4 for 17 for UNC and 6 for 16 for Kansas, and they were combined 2 for 10 from 3, which was awful. RJ Davis for the Tar Heels was 0 for 4, and nobody had more than 2 attempts for that squad. McCormick at that point was 2 for 4 points, 2 rebounds, and a block, and Abaji for the Jayhawks at 5 points and 2 rebounds. Lightfoot got in foul trouble early as well, again causing some problems in the interior and what Kansas was able to do defensively. And it was a very physical game. Manick was hit multiple times, both in the first half and again in the second half. RJ Davis went down hard a couple of times as well. And at the under 8, UNC had a 22-18 lead, and they were very aggressive again on the boards. And they had an 18-12 rebounding edge at that point and an 8-0 run heading into that break. And the Tar Heels were starting to do damage at this point in between the 8 and 4-minute timeouts in the first half. McCormick was posted up 4 separate times, and the Jayhawks could only manage 2 points out of those 4 post-ups. And they got a little sloppy with the ball. Manick drilled 2 3-pointers to put the Tar Heels up 28-22. And McCormick picked up his second foul around that point on some sloppy defense. And the Tar Heels pushed the lead out to 32-22 at this point. And Kansas's biggest deficit of the tourney up to this point was 6 points. Now UNC had 14 second chance points to Kansas's 2. So they were in a lot of trouble. The under 4 timeout got us up to this point. And after that, no McCormick, and the run got even worse. It was pushed out to a 16-point run for UNC and an 18-3 run over the final 6 minutes and 1 field goal total for the Kansas Jayhawks. Badcock ended up taking 6 free throws altogether in the first half, as Kansas just had a tough time kind of getting to him there once McCormick went out, and Lightfoot had a couple fouls as well, so they just had a hard time getting bodies on him. North Carolina was 13 for 16 from the free throw line. Kansas was 3 of 4, so a huge difference there. The Tar Heels also shooting 36 and 27 from the field and from three. The Jayhawks 30 and 28, so a big difference there. The rebounding edge to the Tar Heels 27 to 18, and the turnover margin Jayhawks 6 and the Tar Heels 5. So in every category, massive problems for the Jayhawks. Of course, a little bit of foul trouble as well. And North Carolina was 21-0 this season when leading at half. Now, I don't understand why you'd allow it to get to this point if you were Bill Self. Personally, I would let my best players play. I understand McCormick had 2 timeouts, but his impact on this game was huge, and it made a difference in their rally in the second half. But personally, I would have left him in, and I'm of the mindset that you leave your best players in to try and make an impact. I can't remember what I was reading, so I can't attribute this to what article I was reading. But some data has been gathered that shows that players getting benched because they're in foul trouble doesn't correlate with them eventually fouling out. How the game is called, how the player is collecting the fouls, there are a lot of different factors towards how fouls are picked up, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to keep accumulating them and foul out of the game. And McCormick didn't foul out of the game. So personally, I would have just kept him in and maybe would have never had this deficit. So I guess you tell me, would you rather be down 15 points at the half with your best player having 2 fouls, or maybe down 6 or 7 points with him possibly having a 3rd foul, and maybe your team's not demoralized coming out of the half? Even though we saw in this particular case that wasn't necessarily true, because the Jayhawks came out on a quick 12-5 run in less than 4 minutes coming out of the second. They had 3 field goals in the last 10.5 minutes of the first half, and 6 field goals in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Now, Manick did pick up his 3rd foul, but again, that didn't impact the rest of the game, and he stayed in. McCormick played a big role in the Jayhawks and what they were able to do. He contested a lot of drives defensively. Offensively, he got a nice dunk and a roll to the basket pretty quickly, and he was very effective on both ends of the court. Caleb Love hurts himself just running or lightly jogging into the paint and rolls his ankle. So we have Manick who's banged up, RJ who's banged up, Caleb Love who's banged up for this UNC team, which generally doesn't go to the bench very often. But Leaky Black picks up his 4th foul moments later, and Puff Johnson has to come off the bench to fill in, brother of Cam Johnson, who's in the NBA, a former North Carolina Tar Heel alum. He actually finishes with 11 points, 6 rebounds. He's 5 of 9 from the field. He's a big contributor for the Tar Heels in nearly winning this game, but that's not normally something that they can count on. I think he averages around 3 points a game or something like that. But by the time we hit the under 12 TV timeout, it's an 18-3 run for Kansas to pull it to 48-47. Kansas wakes up over the next stretch of time, but UNC takes the lead and pushes it out to a 56-50 lead at the 10:08 mark on a 31-10 run since the half at that particular point. No, Babcock doesn't hit another shot in the second half at all. He's 0 for 6 altogether. He finishes the game 3 for 13 from the field, but has 13 free throw attempts, hitting 9 of them, a solid percentage for what he's been shooting. But he has a horrible time in the second half. McCormick only rests for, I don't even know if it's 2 full minutes, although it's about 5 minutes of game time briefly as we head towards the under 4 TV timeout. Johnson for UNC, who came off the bench, had 11 points and takes a big charge, able to keep the Tar Heels back in and withstand this Jayhawks force. But then he's sick or coughing or even throwing up when he's running back on defense. So Leaky Black actually comes back in his place at this point and is able to make some defensive plays. McCormick does grab his 4th foul at the under 4 timeout and a Babcock offensive rebound with a 65-61 lead, and Babcock hits both to make it 65-63. and Manic is actually able to grab a UNC turnover and tie it up at the under 3 mark. The next couple of minutes as we're coming down the stretch is enjoyable basketball. We trade a couple baskets at 70-69 at the under minute mark, and a not so great turn. Backhot rolls his ankle, driving towards the bucket, and turns the ball over. That's not something you want to see. That's the same ankle that he hurt in the previous game. That's not something, you want to see him injuring and turning the ball over, an unforced error. Kansas decides not to push the ball in a 5-on-4, so when they slow up, the referees take an official timeout to allow him to get pulled from the floor with 38.5 seconds left, and again, the 70-69 lead for Kansas. McCormick hits a bucket right over Manic to give them a 3-point lead, and a deep 3 miss gives UNC 2 offensive rebound chances to get the ball back, and in a flurry of, wildness, Manic actually gets the ball and flips it out of bounds, trying to get it to Leaky Black in the corner, and it's just out of his reach. So with 4.2 seconds left, North Carolina is down 3 points and giving the ball back to Kansas. Now on the inbounds, Harris has tossed the ball and actually walks out of bounds, not once, but probably twice, with minimal pressure, and actually turns the ball back over to North Carolina in a massive, massive unforced error, and gives them a chance to shoot a game-tying 3. In a horrible, horrible judgment call. If I had a teammate that did that, we would be having some serious problems. It's unbelievable what a poor decision that was. And it was on North Carolina's side of the floor. That's something you can't do. So North Carolina now has the ball back, and 4.3, I believe, was actually put on the clock by the officials. So UNC is now inbounding the ball on their side of the court with a chance to tie the game and send it into overtime. After Kansas, all they had to do was not even go down and hit free throws, but simply find somebody to burn the last 4 seconds up with a 3-point lead. You didn't even have to hit any free throws. Go down, hit 1, maybe hit 2, play a little defense on North Carolina, miss a free throw, make them fight for a rebound. You didn't even have to hit a free throw. You just literally couldn't do what you did. Turn it over and give them back the ball with a set play with 4 seconds left. But point guard Caleb Love plays a little hero ball. They're trying to free Manic coming around the corner, but he still looks beat up after getting hit in the face 3 or 4 times the entire game and the stomach. And he simply falls down trying to get open. So the ball is inbounded to Caleb Love, who shoots up a 3-pointer. You knew he wasn't going to give it up. He's been trying to take big shots all year. It's worked in a couple tournament games, and it's an air ball. And the game is over. 72-69 was the final. The Bill Self captures his second national championship, the 4th total for Kansas. It was the largest comeback in NCAA tournament history, 16 points. The previous largest was 15 points in 1963 by Loyola Chicago. Of course, we all know Loyola Chicago made a little renaissance recently. Babcock finished with 99 rebounds, good for second on the all-time list. He also averaged 16.5 rebounds per game, also good for second on the list of total rebounds per game since 1973. That being an important point because that's where most numbers date back to. A lot of things happened in college basketball in 1973. Separation of divisions and a number of other metrics. So most records have a pre and post 1973. But for the effectiveness of these records, second most in rebounds in a tournament run and second highest average rebounds in a tournament run. Now, Babcock finished this game with 15 points and 15 rebounds, including 6 offensive rebounds, and he shot 9 for 13 from the free throw line, which was excellent. But again, 3 for 13 from the field, 0 for 6 in the second half, really hurt him, and 1 twist ankle as well. Manic, 13 points on 4 of 8 shooting. He really should have got the ball a few more times, but 13 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 3 face hits. 3 hits to the face. Davison had 15 points, only shot 5 of 17 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. That was a big problem. He did grab 12 rebounds as well. Caleb Love, 13 points, 5 for 24 from the field. 5 for 24, including the missed game-winning shot. 1 for 8 from 3. And again, guard play. I said the guards are going to win the game for North Carolina. And they were combined 10 for 41 from the field. Atrocious. And 1 for 13 from 5. So, close but no cigar. And quite literally, the guard missed the game-tying shot. Leaky Black only had 2 attempts, had 2 points and 2 assists. Still managed 13 minutes. Puff Johnson off the bench. 11 points, 6 rebounds, 1 vomit. And altogether, they shot 31, 21, and 81 from the field, 3 and free throw lines. Kansas wasn't excellent from the field. They were just under 44%, but they really cleaned up the three-point shooting. They were 35%, a miserable 57% from the field. The free throw numbers didn't quite catch up either. They had 14 attempts to the Tar Heels 22, as Bacot really got battered around in there, especially in the first half. McCormick finished with 15 points, 10 rebounds, 1 block, and was really important to their comeback here. He ended up 7 of 15 from the field, was the leading person in shot attempts. Braun had 12 points and 12 boards. Harris had 2 points. Wasn't really a key factor of the offense at all, only 5 shot attempts. Wilson had 15 points, 4 boards. Now, Abaji should have been more involved. He was 4 for 9, including hitting the big three-pointer to start the game and a couple shots much later on. He finished with 12 points, 3 boards, an assist to steal a block, but I don't know why he wasn't more involved. He was actually tied for 4th or 5th in the team in shot attempts. Martin off the bench also had 14. He was the key contributor there. But I don't know why he wasn't a little bit more involved in some of the play here. But again, Kansas holding on, a big comeback, great coaching job by Bill Self. I don't understand, the foul mitigation issue when McCormick only ended up with, he did end up with 4 at the very end with just over 3 minutes to play. But with the impact that McCormick had, maybe could have avoided such a need to be defensive at the end. And such a horrible out-of-bounds play by Harris that could have cost the team the game. He was terrible. 4 turnovers, 1 for 5 from the field again, and he was really a net zero in this game as a whole. They should have kept Martin in. But just a great game all the way through. Exciting to see the massive swings. A great debut, Hubert Davis, in his first season. And something that he can look back on. Hopefully that they, for his sake, he makes it back to the national championship. There's plenty of thoughts that from major sports writers that he will look back on this as such a great opportunity and a great run. But I always think that if you don't make it back there, it won't be looked back upon so kindly. So for his sake, I hope North Carolina makes it back and he's able to win one. For Bill Self, who's one of the better coaches in the country, and always viewed very highly, I think a second title is very important, especially for a team that isn't as talented as past groups that he's had. But he's always been an excellent coach and always winning one of the toughest conferences in college basketball, the Big 12, and always assembling a competent team. If you look back the seedings for Kansas in the tournament, going back, a 4 in 2019, a 1 in 2018, a 1, a 1, a 2, a 2, a 1, a 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 4, 3, 4, 2, 1, 4. It was a lowly 8 seed in 2000. Otherwise, they've mostly been a 1 or 2 seed. And Bill Self has acknowledged that they probably haven't won as much as they should have. So the second one is a big deal for him and for this program and for this particular bunch of guys, who has a transfer in Remy Martin from an Arizona State program that was horrible last year and struggling again this season and doesn't have a lot of NBA talent. Abaji will be in the NBA. McCormick, although a dominant college player, might not see much court time in the NBA. So we'll see what happens with these guys' futures. But as far as college basketball is concerned, this was an excellent game between two excellent programs, two blue bloods, with all the storylines that were tied in between Coach K and having Villanova as a participant. So this will forever be encapsulated as one of the great national championships.
Don't forget the money, man.
All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat turn into a